Uncle Dave's Wild Ride.
Right out of the
best
gates.
name ever.
Look at that. Uncle Dave's Wild Ride. We have, in fact, started it. What's going on, guys? We've got a ton of people here in the Plus chat room. Any moment, we'll have people streaming in here on Facebook and YouTube. And if you still own Periscope, somehow on Periscope as well. So,
right.
Guys, welcome. Happy Tuesday. We're going to give you guys a few minutes to pour in here. Comment in the chat whether you're in Plus or watching us on Facebook or YouTube. Let us know where you're watching from. I'm always curious how many countries we have on one live stream. And we got to remember we're talking here. Also, let us know what you think about our brand new office space. We've got a very nice vanilla wall backdrop tonight instead of the windows of my house. So hopefully you guys are enjoying that.
No interruptions from
from my toddler.
Yeah.
Henry from Miami. What's going on, man? All right, we've got people starting to pour in here pretty quickly. Up to about 65 on Facebook. We'll give it another minute or two. There they are.
Texas.
Uncle Dave's from Georgia. Aaron from New Braunfels, Texas. Is my chat working here? Oh, there we go. Plus community. Stuart from DC. Aaron from LA. Liz from New York City. David from Champaign, Illinois.
All over the place, yeah.
From Medford, Massachusetts.
Who's the farthest away from us? Let's see.
We're in Virginia Beach, Virginia, the thriving tech and tennis mecca of Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Yeah. DC, Stuart, you're not far from us, though.
That's
my 3.5 hours.
Yeah, that's my old stomping ground. Stuart, fun fact, Christopher from Long Island. Stuart, fun fact, I actually started Play Your Court from a basically like a garage office in Bethesda, Maryland, while I was working as a tennis coach at Chevy Chase Country Club in Washington, D.C. All right. We're 3 minutes in. I think it's about time to get this party started, eh?
Yeah, let's get it.
If you see us constantly looking at these computers, it's because this is where all of our interaction happens. We'll try and remember to talk here. Do chat if you have any issues hearing us. This is a brand new setup. If you've been on some of our live streams or serve challenges before, you have noticed that some of our technology hasn't always been as friendly as we would like, but so far so good. So if you've never been on one of these calls really are dedicated towards our Plus members. They all have access to us on a Zoom call over here, which is what's going on my left screen. On the right screen, we're monitoring all of the social channels, our Facebook group, our what do I got here? Our Periscope, following our Facebook, our YouTube. So basically any social media channel that's got live stream, y'all are here. All of the Plus members that command our full attention first because they're our most loyal fans and followers are on my left here. So tonight, if you've never been on one of these before, we will typically pick a topic. Tonight is Serve Plus One, how to hold serve more often. So we will pick a topic. The format is pretty simple. We'll get on the board behind you. Behind us. Sorry, not behind you. We'll get on the board.
Who put a board in my house?
Board behind me. We'll get on the board behind us. We'll show you what we're talking about. We will pause and open up for questions. It does get insane on the social side. So if you feel like, man, those guys are ignoring me, that's not the case. We just can't keep up, which is why we have this Plus community. So if you're hurt that we can't respond to every comment from you, join the Plus community and we will. For example, David says new office looks good, but I think Nate's glasses take the case. So fun fact, those are blue lens glasses.
They are.
Yep.
So I've been on the grind, desk jockeying today, and I've got a really nice headache going on behind just this right eye specifically. And I was like, if I'm going to be looking at the computers any longer, I'm going to rock some Blu-rays. Guys, if you are working on your computers a lot, I cannot recommend Blu-ray glasses.
Now I'm going to have to get us an affiliate deal for Bluray glasses.
Yeah, we don't have a partnership. I'm just telling you, like I kept getting chronic headaches, and our buddy was like, hey, you should get these, and they help. But not today. They didn't work today.
Look at this. Colin Byer shouting at our commercial. Playing tennis is easy, but you know what isn't easy? Finding someone to play with. All right, let's get this party started. We've got tons of people here in Plus. Looks like about 10, 11 of you guys. We've got about 175 across a couple different social channels. So let's get this party started. So I'm going to head right to the board here. We're talking about Serve Plus One tactics. If you've never played tennis before or you don't listen very well, serving is much more advantageous than returning. And I think a lot of us know this, but maybe we don't exactly know why. So I want to cover that first. It is the one time, I'm going to make my little dudes here bigger. It is the one time in tennis where you start in the middle third of the court, which is in position, and your opponent starts in the outer third of the court, out of position. So as you can see, if things go correctly, you're already on offense and your opponent is already on defense. Add to that the fact that you have full control over the first shot. This is sort of the automatic recipe for the best thing that could possibly happen to you on a tennis court. So here's what I want to draw out first. And we've talked about this on a couple other live streams, so I'll go through it quickly. There's something you need to understand about positioning on the tennis court and when to play offense and when to play defense. And this will help you well outside of your serve, but you have to understand it to understand the content we're going over today. So when you take the singles court and you split it in half, so you've got the ad side, you've got the deuce side, and then you draw down the middle of these two sides of the court. And I'm going to also admit Andrew in here. You draw down here to separate the court. And this will be kind of behind my guy here, but you get the idea. You see I've segmented the court into a middle section and into outer thirds. When you get a ball in the middle section, this is when you can set your feet. This is when you can step in. This is when we really want you to be playing offense. When you get pulled out wide, with the exception of being pulled short, when you get pulled short, you know, all exceptions are off. All rules are off. But when you're in the middle third of the court and you can set your feet and you can step in, you're in position. This is the time we want to see you taking the most risks. This is the time we want to see you hitting the ball down the line if that's the right decision. We don't necessarily want to see that when you're pulled really far out of position. You can see pretty easily here, if I guess I could use a tennis ball. If I'm out of position and I hit this ball attempting to hit down the line and I don't do a good enough job of it, that ball's coming back into my open court space before I can recover all the way over here. So this is why you're going to hear us sort of limit you to down the line options when you're in the middle of the court. So that was really like a very basic sort of brush over that topic, but generic idea here. If you're in the middle third of the court, you can play offense. If you're in the outer thirds of the court, you really should be playing defense or neutral unless you're pulled forward. So check this out. We've got these same lines over here for your opponent, right? So you can see right now, Timmy returner, as the point starts, is out of position, which means if we can serve out wide and keep Timmy returner out of position, unless he hits the ball back cross court into our outer thirds, we have a very clear offensive play into open court space and to immediately get Timmy returner on the run here. Now, I know I've sort of drawn all over this and made a mess here, so let me clean this up and I'll sort of
it's actually not an eraser. You don't have to like go over the line twice. I think it just wants
rude.
Look at that. Look at that. Rude. Innovation.
Remember the first time Nate helped me with technology in my life? That was just right now.
Did you guys catch it as the first time ever in my whole life?
All right. Let me get back to our screen here. Give me 2 seconds, guys. Sorry. Okay. So, again, basic concept here. You start in the middle third of the court. Your opponent starts in the outer thirds of the court. When you serve out wide, automatic decisions when you're getting the ball really anywhere from here over are going to be to play offense to the open court space and follow the ball into the net. This same concept applies when you're on the ad side. We're getting into a lot more detail here, but I want to really drive this one simple point home where if you hit a serve to your opponent out wide, whether it's on the deuce or the ad side, and they do not hit the ball cross court, you should be on instant offense. We just talked about how when we get pulled out wide, if we hit this ball down the line, that's a mistake because our opponent can take it back cross court. It's the shortest distance. We don't have time to recover. So we know when we pull our opponent out wide, them returning down the line is a mistake. We know that when they hit the ball into the middle third of the court, that's when we can set our feet and be offensive. We can attack. And we know that if they hit the ball short, we can also step in and hit the ball down the line. So really what we're looking for here as a server, if we serve that ball out wide, Really, unless that ball bounces. That's an eraser. Really, unless that ball bounces, I'm going to say, what is happening, Nate Dogg?
I think you're still on a razor there, buddy.
There we go. Unless they hit the ball really in this tiny box, everything else can be played offensive to here. Comment down below if this makes sense. Comment down below if you serve out wide and your opponent does anything other than hit the ball right here. Comment, I get it, if you understand that you're on offense. And really from here, should be able to control the point and work your way to the net and close the point out. Throw it down in there for me just to make sure I know I can get going really quick. I want to make sure you guys get what I'm saying here. Very nice. Everybody in the plus chat saying, got it. All right, so this is the one automatic decision I want you guys to think about. And it's why we as coaches love to see you serve out wide, because it just opens up immediately a lot of opportunity for you to instantly go on offense, play into the open court space, and hopefully follow the ball into the net if you feel like you've hit the ball here strong enough. That is where I will hand the reins over to you. This is my basic starting blocks for the foundation here. You want to
It's good stuff, man. You got to clean up your mess. So there's a lot going on here. I'll even help you. Look at that.
Dual erasers. Got the middle lines going. It's too late. They're gone.
Yeah. All right, so I know some of you are out there and you're like, but what if you don't have a strong serve? We're going to talk about all that, right? Like I know that's a big issue, especially 4-0 below. It's like sometimes the serve is a liability. So how can you play serve +1? It's a lot more difficult, but we're going to show you some tricks towards the end about how you can protect your serve and make it a little bit of a weapon, right? So like anytime we're getting percentages where we're have a 51 to 49% advantage, that's still an advantage. And sometimes that's all it takes. But let's assume that you have all three serves, right? So if you have all three serves,
make sure you talk to the computer so they can hear you.
And you have the slice out wide, you have the jammer body, and you have the tee. Let's talk about deuce court patterns, all right? And let's talk about what is the most advantageous. This is going to piggyback on what Scott was just talking about. Of these three patterns, and you guys can leave this in the chat. Of these three patterns, out wide, body, and tee, what is Roger Federer's favorite target on the deuce court? Go ahead and throw that in the chat.
Let us see in plus. We're on a delay. Everybody's saying wide. Aaron says slice wide. Stuart wide. David wide. Andrew says body.
All right, so you guys that said wide, you're on it, okay? Roger's favorite serve is either flat or slice, sometimes a hybrid, and he hits a nasty can opener because the idea, and this is really about playing the serve short in the court. If you're hitting flat, you're not going to be able to hit short in the court. But if you're hitting that can opener slice, you want to play this short in the court so that when they go to play that ball, minimize that just a little bit. All right, this gentleman, your opponent, has to move not even just off the court, but up into the court, right? This is really problematic now as I move him back. Let me enlarge this ball again. Because as this ball is placed back to you, as Scott mentioned before, there's really no good place to go. If they play it down the line, all right, where's Roger taking it? The ball's immediately going cross court. And you can see here, look at all this space that's having to be covered. A little tough to see there, I guess, with the...
It's hard to understand this too, but again, as Nate mentioned, if he's pulled you forward and out wide, so make note of where this guy's feet are. Now he's got to move back in at an angle on a full-out sprint if he's right-handed to his backhand side. I, as a right-handed tennis player, can think of no worse situation than to be on a full-out sprint, reaching with my backhand as, well, Roger Federer comes to the net. That makes it really the worst-case scenario if I'm playing Roger Federer.
Yeah, that's the worst-case scenario. Eraser. All right, so let's get rid of this real quick. All right, so now our opponent with the slice wide, they've now decided to play the ball. Oh, there goes the screen.
This is what kind of nice things.
They play the ball out wide. Now, this is even more problematic. I know some of you are thinking, well, down the line, like maybe they do damage to play cross court. Remember what Scott was saying. In order for you to be effective playing cross court, you've got to keep it relatively deep cross court. So the minute this ball goes middle, now the opponent is trying to get back to middle, and now it's a 50-50 ball. And the 50-50 ball is they have to decide, are you taking this ball back cross court behind them or playing down the line? And on both of these, we're going to see Fed follow it in, right? Especially his favorite pattern, slice out wide, ball comes pretty much anywhere middle over to the right. He's going to play down the line, and he's following it in. Okay, so it really doesn't leave any options. If the ball goes short middle, Fed's using that inside out forehand, and again, he's playing a 50-50 ball. All right, so there's really only cross court, this small piece of real estate, and the only way the opponent is diffusing this situation is if they're playing with just extremely good depth across the board. We're going to talk about that on returns in a moment, but this is what I want you to see for now. With that slice out wide, if the ball's not getting past this quadrant, and that's probably generous, right, at the professional level, serious damage is being inflicted here.
We haven't talked a ton about it too. Somebody mentioned it here. Yeah, Christopher mentioned it. Roger often runs around his backhand. That's the other thing here too. Like, not only is that ball in the middle third of the court already putting us on offense, but it gives us a chance to step around and hit that inside out forehand to the weaker side. So really, like, for a right-handed tennis player playing a right-handed tennis player, and I know lefties, I'm sorry, I know we don't spend nearly enough time addressing you. It's a flaw for most coaches. I'm sorry.
But it's the same thing on the ad court.
It's the same concept on the ad court. But when you pull your opponent out wide on the do side or out wide on the ad side, and you get a ball in the middle third of the court or not cross court, you're looking to step around and hit into open court space. Now, I know this becomes a lot easier at, say, a 4-0, 4-5, 5-0 level. Maybe you've got all these weapons. I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, well, hold on a second. So every single time I'm supposed to just serve out wide to my opponent's forehand? Like, I play in a 3-5 league, and, Timmy Returner's got a terrible backhand. Say that 5 times fast. So at a higher level of play, and we're going to address everybody, at a higher level of play, particularly on the Pro Tour, when you see Roger serve T, he's trying to hit an ace or he's trying to do serious damage. And think about why, right? It's the one opportunity for this returner to actually be pulled back into position, right? If we serve T while playing singles, that brings this player to the middle of the court, and now all bets are off. Now the next ball that we hit can't do immediate damage. So if that serve doesn't do the damage, we've sort of just volunteered to start the point out neutral. So it's not to say we should never serve up the tee. At a lower level, if you're playing somebody with a weaker backhand, it can certainly make sense. But I will propose this idea to you. You'll still want to mix it up because their backhand is going to be much weaker when they're pulled out wide and then on their run to it than it is when they know you're just going to keep serving to it over and over and over again. So no matter what your skill level is, this serve out wide to guarantee yourself offense when the ball is not struck across court and deep is sort of the foundation for serve +1 patterns that we want you to understand. The same concept applies on the ad side. I'm going to take 10 seconds to just show it to you, but it's very, very simple. It's exactly what we just talked about. I can't stop moving the screen. Same concept. That ball is served out wide, pulling our opponent out of position. We know it is incorrect and foolish to take that ball the shortest distance possible when we need the most distance possible to recover. We know if we hit that ball here, we're going to get beat with a ball into the open court space. We know the goal as a returner here should be to pull this ball cross court, and really any ball that doesn't land, let me get this out of the way for a second. Any ball that doesn't land in this zone right here, if I'm back here serving, I'm looking to step around and rip forehands into the open court space, follow it into the net, and close the point out. So that is sort of, for me at least as a coach, that is my baseline foundation for serve +1. When you pull the ball out wide, your opponent is immediately out of position. When they're out of position, they're on defense. If they don't play the correct defensive ball back high or cross court, you're going to immediately punish them, and that's the +1.
Yeah, and so let's jump into that. So what Scott and I are really trying to share with you is the serve that you need to be developing are the out wide serves and not necessarily the flat serve. So the deuce court, definitely the slider. The ad court for you righties, looking at more of a kick. You can still slice, right? But like it's going to be much easier to hit top spin or kick out there in the ad court and reverse it for a lefty. So maybe you're not playing at a 4-5 level, maybe not even 4-0. let's talk about the slice serve for a minute, because I have a lot of players that are like, and you may be thinking this as well.
This set up, brother. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Cleaning up my mess. Here's your.
So Timmy, the returner, has an unbelievable forehand, right? He has a fantastic forehand, and every time I serve out there to the forehand, he's walloping the ball, right? This is a lot of times because you're either serving with too much spin, you're hitting top spin, and we don't necessarily want to hit top spin to the wide serve, right? Unless you're just completely trying to get them to read a different serve. We don't want to be hitting a ton of top spin out wide, because that does sit up to the forehand ground stroke, right? And if you're hitting flat, it becomes really difficult to target the flat serve. So for most players, what you're left with on the flat serve, like, you're really looking at hitting kind of back through this section, right? And because of that, they can immediately squeeze that part of the court, right? Anything else, anything in this section here is vulnerable, all right? So it's not giving you the same returns. So the reason the slice works so well, it's just not because it pulls them out of position. It makes all your other serves so much better, right?
I'm wondering if a lot of you at home are like, well, this sucks. I thought this was serve +1. It's serve +1.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Right.
the serve obviously sets up the +1 here. So if a lot of you are like, well, I don't have that serve out wide, I think at least we've inspired you to understand why, as a right-handed player, a slice serve out wide on the deuce or a kick on the ad or the reverse for a lefty is sort of something you need to have, right? That's the serve piece of the serve +1. We're obviously going to cover other patterns, but I think we've driven home the point hard that out wide is our preference, particularly at lower levels of play that don't have, a big 110, 120 up the tee.
So Timothy Miller is asking, how about when the opponent has a weak backhand? In that case, is it more effective to serve down the tee? Sometimes. So that's a great segue to what we're talking about, the slice serve. Remember what Scott was saying a moment ago. If you can get this player to give up position because they're afraid of your slice serve out wide, look at all that space you can attack them now. You can get them to move. You can get them to move all the way to their left to defend that particular space, okay? So I always say, and I show my age here, I'm like, you want to be Greg Maddux, you're not trying to be Randy Johnson. I need to start following baseball again because I don't really know. And
no one born after 1968, as we were talking about.
So the idea is that if I need to train the receiver. So Timothy, to your question is, if this person has a really weak backhand, right, even if it's relatively awful, right, and that's what I was saying, where is their backhand going to go the majority of the time? Back to your backhand, right? And so if they hit short, you can run around and you can get into their forehand.
Make sure you guys understand that, because I know a lot of you are like, what? Why would their backhand go here? Unless you get really to a high level of play, inside-out cross-court backhands are not the most natural response to a serve at your backhand. That's why.
It's probably a good clarification. I glazed over that a little bit, right? But if I'm consistently serving to someone's backhand, their backhand return is going to come to my backhand. So Timothy, and for everybody else out there with that strategy, ask yourself, is the +1, is that what you want? Do you want it to be your backhand?
Yeah.
Right? I don't. Right? I'm definitely looking to optimize the forehand. And this is actually what we see a lot with students that we train, and definitely at the recreational level. They go, well, I'll just attack the weaker stroke over and over and over again. And guess what? No matter how bad Timmy the returner's backhand is, you're grooving it, man.
Yep.
At some
you're giving them reps. You're helping them improve.
Yeah. And at some point, they're going to go, I'm just going to block my backhand super deep, or I'm going to chip really short, right? So what we want to do is control the mound the way a pitcher does, and we improve the tee serve to the backhand by improving the slider. So you want to talk to him about how we get the batter off the plate with the body serve?
Yes, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about slice. We sort of said slice is the default to keep your opponent out of position on the deuce side. Kick would be the same on the ad side. We've talked about how serving tee pulls your opponent into the middle of the court. So you really got to have good reason to try this. If you're serving at a high level, one of the good reasons would be you can hit an ace there. At a lower level, it may be that, yes, my opponent does have a weaker backhand. I'm not always going to serve to their forehand. Or it may just be I'm playing a player that's so lopsided that when I serve out wide to the forehand, I'm getting clobbered because my slice serve out wide is not that good. So we've addressed those situations. Let's talk about the body serve. So a lot of players particularly 4-0 and below, are just way more comfortable reaching to hit than they are moving out of the way to hit. All right. So if you're serving again at a big enough speed, I would say 75, 80 miles per hour plus, a body serve is actually one of the most undervalued serves in tennis. Particularly if you're aiming well enough to target a hip. Like one of my favorite absolute serves when I'm playing a singles match as a right-handed player is to actually hit that slice serve right into the left hip bone of a right-handed player's backhand, just jamming them up in here. Nobody's comfortable. Nobody's excited to take a backhand right off their left hip and be jammed up. So this is certainly a ball that's going to generate you more of those balls in the middle third of the court, right? So to sort of redraw and recalibrate here, will you shoot that my way? Don't forget what we're really talking about here. And that is that if we get balls in here, we're in great shape, right? Now, we're in not amazing or not as amazing shape if our opponent is here versus here, but we're still in way better shape than if that ball's here. All right, so what I want you thinking about is once we've talked about the slice serve and we understand that now, there's the option to get our opponent out of position and keep them in their outer thirds. Really, the other two options are going to intentionally pull them more towards the middle of the court and pull them more into position. And a lot of you are going to say, well, why would I ever do that? And the answer is you may still get a ball in this middle zone here where you feel really comfortable stepping in, ripping, and attacking. So the +1 in this instance, you would serve, barricade at the body to hopefully get a ball back that is in your middle third of the court where you can then start to go to work on putting them in their outside thirds.
And for you doubles players, the body is where holding serve lives, man. Sure. The body is phenomenal in doubles. Now, let me add to that point to what Scott was just saying here too, right? So if somebody doesn't have to be huge, if they're dropping, if they're dropping 70 miles per hour and you're constantly getting jammed up, what are you going to do to improve your situation? There we go. You're going to go, I'm going to get off the line and I'm going to back up. Okay. So pump the brakes. What happens when you back this player up? Oh man, can you shoot that thing back to me real quick?
Yes, nicely.
Please, push my board. Gracias. So now, all of a sudden, your wide serve, it's a great era. That serve doesn't exist. Gracious, sorry.
Where are you serving from the bleachers?
Yeah. Lost my line there, right? Okay, so when you back them up, look at all these wonderful angles that just became available, right? That's right. Your slice serve is that much better, right? And now even the flat serve down the tee, they're looking at blocking it. They're never, ever getting through that ball. And if you're hitting your kicker, they're probably going to have to block it because they can't take it on the rise, right? So it's these three serves that we want to master. We're not talking about the big pace, all right? So remember on the deuce court, though, we said of the three, right? I'll give you my personal order of importance. Slice number 1, body number 2, tee number 3. And I know a lot of you are out there. Are you kidding me?
Tee is like not even number 3. It's like a distant. It's like slice is like 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. Body is like 4 and 5, and tee is like, all right, I guess it's 6.
Because you guys all know this player, men and women, all of you out there, and I was definitely this player. I was like, they don't have a slice out wide.
Yeah, I'm gonna protect.
I'm gonna stand here. And now every time I got a kick or anything that even remotely looked like topspin to my backhand, I stepped around and I roped big old inside outs, inside ins. So now it's been turned on its head. And the reason being is now I've got a 50-50 ball. You hit this kind of loopy topspin in, right? I'm moving around it. And now you go, I wonder if Nate is playing down the line or on this inside end.
Yeah, now you're on defense, right? If Nate stepped around and is moving towards the middle third of the court, it's no longer unintelligent for him to hit the ball down the line. So he could actually lock you in what we call the cage, where he's now hitting inside out forehands to your backhand. You just took what should have been offense and immediately signed up for defense. So to give you guys this a nice summary here, and I did see you, Gary, we are going to talk about serve +1 for doubles. But I'll sort of put a nice bow on this for you guys. In singles, Here's the serve +1 strategies we want you to go after. And we'll cover all 6 potential situations. I'm going to go quick. All right.
Yeah.
You're starting on the do side. You're serving out wide. We've talked about this. Really, we're beating a dead horse here at this point. If you get a ball that's anywhere other than in this box, this eraser, anywhere other than in this box, you should be taking it, maybe hitting a forehand. Ideally, if you can step around, if you're getting the ball more, towards the center of the court, maybe you can step around it and hit a forehand. But regardless, your automatic decision is going to be to hit the ball here and follow it into the net. We mirror this on the ad side. If you guys feel like you don't understand this, let me know. This has nothing to do with whether you're right or left-handed. If you're on the do side and you're right-handed, it's a slice serve. If you're left-handed, it's a kick serve out wide. Same concept when flip-flop. So same exact idea. If we're right-handed playing a right-handed player or a left-handed player, it doesn't matter. If we hit that serve out wide and they don't hit that ball, they don't hit that. Bring this over here for me. They don't hit that ball here. Same situation. We are going to try and step around. We're going to look to maximize our forehand, and we're going to hit into open court space. We're going to follow it into the net. We're going to shadow that line, and we're going to look to close a volley. All right. Type in the comments if that makes sense so far. That's the serve +1 for out wide serves on both the deuce and the ad side.
In the ad court, I'll add, like in the ad court, beat the hell out of the backhand, right? Like over there, you can get rewarded with the top spin, hitting the flat serve, getting them pulled off court. That is where if they have a weaker backhand, you want to exploit it to death because the juice isn't worth the squeeze as much playing through the tee because they're leaning on that forehand. All right. Now, if you are playing the tee or in the ad court and they're getting a hold of their forehand, it's going to be more difficult for them to play inside out into this zone. So you do have to cover your line there. But it really goes back to what we're saying. All 3 pitches is what makes serving better. And think about, I hate to harp on Roger, right? But like he'll go down as one of the top 10 servers of all time, and nobody's ever talked about the pace that he has, right? It's that he hits his spots, right? Same thing with Sampras had a phenomenal pace. I'm not saying he didn't, but Sampras hit his spots, right? It's about spot serving and setting up the +1. And for you guys at home, if there was one thing that I beat to death with my juniors, and my adult lessons, you've got to get efficient in this zone. And what I'm talking about is that when you're getting a ball in this green zone, not because the court's green, it's a green zone, you're looking to finish or you're looking to hit the ball that's going to set up the finishing shot.
It's time to do damage for sure.
This is the +1 zone. Like that's got to be a layup. Every time a ball hits there, you're like, I know what I want. My competitive days, I wanted the ball not just dead center. I wanted the ball left of center. This is where I want it to be on court, right? And I know it seems a little bit funky, but I want it the inside out, inside in. That was my favorite shot. So it's a little bit like basketball. You're drawing plays to get an open look, right? We both grew up playing basketball, right? It was all about if the coach is drawing up plays to get you open on the perimeter or whoever it might be to get them an open look, they're doing it by drawing up plays. So why wouldn't we do it on the tennis court where we're hitting course serves that give you corresponding responses?
That's something you need to think about too. Like if you're just serving with no plan for what's going to happen next, you're missing the mark. And this serve +1 strategy is really important. It's going to help you bring your game to that next level if you're not thinking this way already. So this sort of green light zone or +1 zone that Nate just outlined is a great segue to the other 4 serves that we talked about. So we covered the out wide. Really, if you're serving at the body or tee, you're looking to do damage to either hit service winners or get a ball in this serve +1 zone. And I want to make it really that simple for you. If you're serving out wide, it's because you want to keep your opponent on defense and you want to look for, a ball that they haven't made the right decision with. If you're serving body or tee, know that you're willingly pulling your position. Know that you're willingly pulling your opponent into position, but that if you do enough damage where you're getting a ball in the +1 zone, that's okay. Remember, we talked about a ball in here that pulls us forward or is in the middle third of the court where we can step in, where we can move forward, where we can transfer our way into the shot. That's when we can start to take more risks and see more rewards. That's when it makes sense to hit down the line versus when we're pulled out of position when we need time to recover. So that's really a pretty simplified version of serve plus one, even at the highest level of play. If you're going body or tee, you're looking to do damage enough where that next ball can hopefully be something you can set up to start taking control of the point. If you're serving out wide, hopefully you're getting lucky enough where that ball is not coming back cross court in that zone and you're able to attack into open court space and start to transition yourself to the net. We got to get to dubs too, but you want to add some stuff to singles?
Yep. So there's one time that you don't want to serve out wide on either side.
It's when you're playing Rafa Nadal.
In the chat, if you know what it is, what is the +1 when you don't want to be serving out wide? What would you be doing as your +1? You guys have this. Come on.
Does it rhyme with Schmervendali?
It does. It's Schmervendali. All right. So if your +1 tactic is serve and volley, don't serve out wide, right? Angles create angles. So the more you pull this person off the court, don't cut it. Don't lose the tennis ball. So you go here and you go, I'm going to come on in, right? Now they're going, well, I've got the line. I've got the cross. I can dip, right? There's too many options. So serve and volley. Now we're talking about when we want to play
body and tee, baby.
Yep. This is where I want to be locating the ball, tee and then through body. Things that come down the middle have a tendency to come back through the middle, right? Going back to what I was saying, angles create angles, right? But as a lot of you have probably heard, middle solves the riddle.
That's right.
If somebody's killing you with angles, if you got somebody that's on the run with a big old Rafa Pete Sampras forehand, stop making them run. Play them really deep through the center of the court. And that's exactly what you want to do on the serve +1 with a serve and volley as well. A lot of tee serve, a lot of body serves.
Yeah, for all the reasons you would never hit down the line when you're out of position, it's because you've got to live to fight another ball. If you only have one ball to pass, it's a great time to get on the line when you're out of position. So you don't want to volunteer that option to your opponent if you're serving volume. So that's actually a pretty good segue to a very, very simple doubles tutorial on serve +1.
I'm not laughing because you're trying to raise it again.
I can't stop. It just feels more normal to go like that.
I know.
All right, I need to make a copy of this little man. It says he's copied, but I don't see him.
Where are you?
Where are you, little man? Well, I'm going to draw our little net players in for the moment, and by next time I will learn how to use our TV better. It really is supposed to just...
You can probably put this guy over on the side with you.
Oh, please. All right. That's what we're doing. Sorry, guys. We'll get better at technology at some point. All right. So in doubles, very, very, very simple instruction. You either want your partner involved or you don't. And most of the strategies involving serve +1 surround either getting your partner involved or not. So here's what's going on. If you serve out wide, what does your partner have to do? They have to shift and cover their line, or this player that now looks like this because the CEO of a technology company can't figure out a TV.
That is horrible.
That's a tennis player. Timmy Twig is going to burn you down the line when pulled out wide if you at the net don't shift, right? So basically, and this is actually a strategy, and it is a serve +1 strategy. Hey, if your partner has crummy volleys and you don't want them involved in the point, serve out wide a lot, right? If your partner has awesome volleys or they're intimidating or they like to move up at the net, or you feel like, man, I can just get in this opponent's head if my partner can be more active, more in the middle of the box, then we're going to look to serve towards the body or more towards the middle of the court. What you'll see here is there really is no angle in which this baseline player can beat my partner up at the net when I pull them towards the tee, right? There's no angle from here. This player is always one step away from crossing off any ball that comes on this angle. So when I serve tee or when I serve body, it just allows this player to start to creep more towards the middle of the court. It allows them to get a lot more aggressive and allows them to poach. So I don't know that I have a whole lot more to add here outside of the serve and volley, but serve +1 in doubles is all about getting your partner involved. It's about serving, body, tee. It doesn't have to be big. It's a positioning battle.
Yeah. I think the only exceptions are for serving wide is if you've got a lefty over there and they have a horrendous backhand return, then you don't have to be worried about being passed down the line nearly as much because it's going to be a really, really difficult shot. We'll talk about that on the ad court a little bit as well. But rarely do we see lefties on the ad court. I know you can get your volleys in the middle and stuff, but it's about putting your turns in play. If you are a higher level player, though, or you just have a nasty can opener serve, Scott has a really good slice serve out wide, right? So in this position, I'm never gonna move to the alley. I'm gonna be aware of the line, right? I'm gonna watch what's happening. I'm gonna be aware of the line because I'm still just a step over, right? But his serve stays low enough and pulls short enough into the court that most of the time they're still hitting over a higher part of the net, which actually gives me an opportunity to poach. But I have to confirm that they're going cross court first. I just wanted to clarify that because I know some of you are going to ask that, right? And at a higher level, heck yeah, man, use those slice out wide.
And at a lower level, again, the whole but he's got a weak backhand argument still holds up, right? Like you will on the ad side want to serve to the backhand because I can just tell you, by the way, let's try this. Nope. All right.
Incredible.
I was just responding to some feedback there. People were trying to coach me through my own TV.
What did it say?
Live stream. I don't know. I was just trying to learn some things.
There's probably an undo button too.
There should be, and I'm sure there is. And we're going to study this TV.
Uncle Dave's on it,
over, so we know what's up. All right. So check this out. If you're returning over here on the ad side to your backhand, I mean, how many 3-0 level players, 3-5, even 4-0s are super comfortable redirecting a ball out wide to their backhand down the line past the net player's forehand volley if they're right-handed? That's stressful. So it does make sense to serve out wide for that reason. If you're playing to a right-handed player who's got their backhand, they're not comfortable hitting the ball down the line, you're sort of opening up a lot of options for yourself, and it's certainly not incorrect. At a higher level of play, most players are pretty comfortable roping this back cross court. They are going to punish you down the line if you start to lean too early. So I don't want to eliminate the idea of an out wide serve, particularly to a weaker player's backhand or weaker ground stroke with some net pressure. That is certainly a serve plus one tactic that makes sense really all the way up to a 4-0, even 4-5 level sometimes. I think it's probably time to open up the floor to some questions here. Do you have anything else you want to say?
For you guys that are a little bit higher level and you're looking to take serve plus one in dubs, always suggest signals and talking.
Yeah.
Right. That's huge. Ask your partner where they're going so you know where you can move and where you're going to poach. So for instance, and this is what we see a lot of times, if they don't communicate and this player accidentally or has the tendency to hit out wide, they don't know what to do. So you're just stuck. Right. So have that communication of, I'm serving T, and this person will say, I'm poaching. If you're doing signals, I'm poaching. What'd you say? What was your analogy the other day?
Stay like rock, float like paper.
Yeah, I don't know why I've never heard that. I mean, I've always done signals, but I've never heard that. Right. So like, hey, I'm staying. I'm going to guard the line. I'm going. And then we even have like the fake. That's the fake.
I don't know why this is fake. It's just because it's very clearly not this.
The other one. Yeah. Yep. So definitely implement those. Signals are, I don't know that I've in the last 20 years played a doubles match without communicating, whether talking to someone or calling signals. It's really, really important.
Start throwing some questions in the chat, especially Plus members. We'll obviously get to you guys first on social media. We'll do our best. There are a lot of you. In the meantime, I'm going to clean up over here. Dare we talk about the professional tennis player in the room? Elephant in the room.
What are you alluding to?
I don't know. I just know I was waiting for somebody to hear our stance on Osaka, and I was like, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'll clear it up comfortably. Watch this. This is going to be the most comfortable answer you've ever heard to a question. I don't know her well enough to judge. No idea.
Yeah.
I got asked the question a ton today. Like in Facebook, I got like 15 different messages from people in our community being like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I'm not sure that my stature in the tennis community warrants, you caring a whole lot about my opinion on it.
Nobody knows what's going on.
But I have no idea what's going on with that girl inside of her head. Like she could be in a really dark place and maybe she's doing what's best for her. I don't know. I don't have enough information about Naomi Osaka to make a judgment call what is going on. So that is I should run for
At the
president.
end of the day, you got to take care of yourself.
That's right.
That was my stance
That's right.
with it.
Yeah. You got to do what's best for you.
Answer some questions. What do we have here?
Plus members, anything for you guys? We fielded serve +1 for doubles. In the Facebook group, okay, so how do I use serve +1 with a weak serve? That is tough.
I promised that we would.
From
right?
Jay, look, how do I use serve +1 with a weak serve?
Yeah, Jay's
and this is in
our
the singles
YouTube
portion.
community quite a bit. So Jay, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's much more difficult. Here, the biggest problem when we're starting out in this game is that we immediately see the reward of power, right? But it's the most difficult to harness, right? So you get a hold of one big serve, and that's the one you're just constantly working on and searching on. But the problem is hitting the serve really fast is also what diminishes hitting your spots, right? So going back to the slice serve, I've got players that are beginners that have been playing for less than a month that fundamentally understand the slice serve, right? If my racket moves at a 45 using a continental grip, that's where the ball wants to go, right? It's going to work at that angle. And then we start working through racket head acceleration. Those are the things that you want to play with. And then you start playing with hip position, shoulder position, because a slider into the hips is awful at every level, right? Like no one wants to play a slider from the hips. But what I've found is that a lot of players 3-0 and below, 3-5, 3-5, you guys have, pretty solid serves, but this could apply as well. But keeping the ball low is really important, right? So my mom, really solid 4-0 player for a long, long time, had this crazy frying pan.
I remember just a little beeline.
Yeah, crazy frying pan serve. I didn't coach her. But had I would have fixed that. She actually had like a really effective frying pan serve. But what happened is that when she hit it, the ball would stay extremely low and stay extremely annoying. All right. So when we're working through it, surely, I mean, it was a tough ball to handle. That's what we kind of want to do. We want to make it. We're not looking to hit winners. We're not looking to get a ton of forced errors. It's about keeping ourselves safe. So by keeping the ball lower and making them hit up on the net, it's going to give you the opportunity to improve your positioning on the court. All right. So I want to go out there and, especially on second serves, just go out there and think about getting it in. I would rather see players just, intermediates kind of getting used to the game. I'd rather see you hit two serves at 70% than hit a serve at 90% and then 30%.
I'll also say this. I know a lot of you right now are like, Scott, Nate, I can't aim my serve.
Yeah.
You know what to do when it lands in certain places now. You sure, like maybe you started playing tennis this afternoon. If you are brand new and you were going to go out there tomorrow and you're going to hit a frying pan serve, guess what? If it lands out wide and your opponent hits the ball in the middle third of the court, try and hit into that open court space, right? Like it doesn't mean serve +1 doesn't apply. The strategies are still there. It just means it's going to be a little more of a surprise to you as to what strategy you're going to execute based on where the ball magically lands. This stuff still applies. And look, at every level, we get a little bit better at aiming our serve. So all of this stuff is still useful no matter how good your slice serve out wide is. I will say we had another question from Uncle Dave's Wild Ride.
We just like saying the name, so we're just going to keep calling on him as much as possible.
Uncle Dave's Wild Ride says, your opponent, what do I do if my opponent keeps chipping and charging? What's my serve +1? Slice out wide all day on the deuce side, right? If you pull them out of position, that chip is a very slow moving target that you can step in and rip, and they're really far out of position. So if they take the ball down the line, they're hitting the shortest distance. Again, we talked about, the damage you can do if you chip them short, if you slice them short and out wide. If they take this ball down the line, you're immediately passing them.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier. When we're serving and volleying, we don't want to serve out wide because angles create angles. Well, when our opponents are returning and volleying, we do, right? Because angles create angles to pass. So the more we can serve out wide, if they're following that in, the more options we're going to have to pass with the same angles that we wouldn't want to deal with if we were that player.
And most players chip better on their backhands, right? I think most of us do. I certainly do. So when the ad courts, same rules apply, but you still you have to be a little bit more aware. If I'm going to chip and charge in singles or doubles, right? Like I love it on this side. I love a backhand here because I'm going to keep it really low and short. If I hit it deep, I know it's going to happen. It's going to be another chip lock.
Nate's also a
whatever
5'5"
else.
tennis player, so there is that.
My slice is decent, right? So the idea is if I slice there, right, this player is going to have a really hard time moving up, and they have to play the ball up. So then you can pinch, right? So I'm just be a little bit more aware of it on the ad court. But this person has to have a very good chip off that backhand wing to do the damage.
In the best case scenario, depending on your skill level, a kicker out wide on the ad side really, really prevents
Pushes
chip
them
and
back.
charge. Nobody wants to chip from up here.
Yeah, and body.
Yep. But yeah.
Body serve.
Yeah. Yeah, really, the more distance you can create, the further they have to travel to get to the net, the better your angles and opportunities to pass are. All right, we got a couple people on the plus. So David asks, just a question for more general advice, what to do on a serve when you are tired. I notice I lose the flow on the serve late in a match or during lessons after a lift day. So basically a leg fatigue problem. Do you have any quick tricks?
I do. And David, I'm going to hook you up here, man, because I've been playing with this a lot, studying it, investigating, putting tireless hours into it.
Tired quickly too, so a lot of reps on solving this problem.
So we put out a video today, how to hit your serve faster, a serve lesson. And we talked about a couple things, and it alluded to a video that's coming out in a couple weeks. But the general idea was talking about the rear pelvic tilt, the position that we hit into when we go into our service motion. So when I'm in my service motion, when I'm looking for, I'll get sideways for you guys.
I can zoom out.
Out of the way. So, nah, it's okay. But when I'm serving, what I want to make sure I'm doing is getting into this position, right? We know this. Now, the video today, what we talked about is that too often what ends up happening is that we go into adduction through the motion. We get here and then we go, oh, that's adduction, right? And what we want to do is make sure that we're getting into abduction and then coming around to adduction to hit the serve. So what I talked about, the idea in this video is that if you're hitting these major points and you're still loading, and to differentiate, loading is still using your legs, all right? 55% of all power comes from the lower body or in your serve. You still have to load, but you don't have to jump. And jumping is what exhausts us. You can load all day. Right, that's just that push against the ground that pushes you back a little bit.
We talk a ton about that in the serve challenge, how for us as right-handed players, that right foot firing creates that racket drop and 90 to 95% of the power we need. You don't have to get off the ground. So
absolutely. So the video that we have coming out in a couple of weeks, we go really deep in that, and basically where I've got a pretty gnarly hip injury. And so what's happened is that I don't have any problem jumping. When I repeatedly land on my left foot, it's jarring to the hip, and I go deep in a match and the hip just fires up. So I can't keep doing it. So I've been playing with kind of the mechanics and kind of researching like where the power threshold is. And the truth is it's that rear pelvic tilt. If you're getting into this good position and you're making sure that you're getting a nice coil, there's no reason to really jump at all. So I would start playing with that. But stay tuned for that. I think that'll really help you. But I would stop jumping as the match progresses and just really focus on that rear pelvic tilt.
For sure. Stuart, also plus number, says, what adjustments do you make with your slice serve when you're hitting out wide versus trying to slice into the returner's left hip? I'm going to grab a racket and do this. Simply.
What's up, guys? It's me, Nate. Just hanging out.
Sorry, racket's really far away.
Hey, buddy.
All right, so very simply put, I'm going to imagine, Stuart, that I am this little dude right here on the deuce side serving. So now as I'm facing this way, you're seeing this little guy serving from behind. So when I slice out wide towards the net post, so when my racket moves in a chopping motion towards the deuce side net post, I'm going to expect that ball to land somewhere more in the middle of the box. The further I chop towards the center net strap, the more the ball is going to go out wide. The further I chop towards the net post on the next court or further into the net, the more the ball moves towards the tee. So basically your motion shouldn't change a whole lot. Just the angle at which you hit the ball is going to completely determine where the ball moves. The best drill I can think of to really get a feel for this is jump out there on the court and just serve where you're making contact and just freezing off the same toss. And just chop in different directions and just pay attention to where the ball goes. You can really dial in aiming your slice serve that way.
Exaggeration theory. It's got the nail in the head, man. It's like everyone wants to play darts when they're working on aiming. You've got to really exaggerate what your contact is. So what Scott's talking about is like aiming to this net post, aiming to this net post, and then aiming towards center stripe, like really exaggerating where it would go, because the truth lies somewhere in between.
That's right.
Right? But everyone's like, they make these tiny adjustments. They're like, my serve's not going anywhere. Right? It's big adjustments. Right?
Stuart, does that help? I can unmute you if you have any follow-up questions. Give me the thumbs up if you're good, or the thumbs down if you want me to unmute, and you can chat with us. Thumbs down. All right, let me unmute you. Hold on one second here. All right, you should have just got a request to unmute there.
Oh, hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, man, what's going
up,
on?
Stuart?
Talk to us.
Doing well. Thanks for letting me jump in. So it was a good explanation. I guess so. Obviously, I need to get out and practice more. But what I've been sort of experimenting with, and maybe I'm on the wrong path, is changing my grip a little bit. Like moving my hand a little over to the eastern backhand side, not fully, but in that direction.
Just on the slice serve, you mean, right?
Yeah, on the slice.
I get why you would do it. I wouldn't recommend as a coach you do it. So like, I understand why, right? So like, you're having a hard time getting the chop you want. You slide over, it creates more natural chop without you having to actually pronate your wrist as much, is the idea, right?
Yeah.
I would prefer you work, and you'll actually hear. Did you do our serve challenge by chance?
I saw that. Yeah.
Okay, we've got another one of these coming up. We talk about this a ton. So the heel pad of your right hand. Most players make this. Are you right-handed?
Yes.
So the heel pad of your right hand also needs to be on that second bevel. Most players that struggle with hitting a slice serve, it's because they've got their index knuckle here on bevel 2, but then when you turn underneath, their heel pad is actually in more of that one-handed Eastern backhand grip that you just talked about. And so from here, you feel like you can't generate that same wrist snap. You get trapped right here. When you slide that heel pad underneath, and now my heel pad, if I flip over here, you can see how my heel pad is on bevel 2 here, which is the same bevel as my index knuckle. Now, all of a sudden, that pronation becomes much simpler, and I can get that chop that I'm looking for. So I think that would be the adjustment I would make. If you're sliding your heel pad under, you're actually just going to lose a lot of power, and you're going to end up with more spin, but uncontrollable and unreliable. I would rather see that continental grip, the true continental, with the heel pad in the right place.
Interesting enough, too, moving over to the Eastern backhand grip, that actually helps influence kick.
Yep.
Yeah, old Stefan Edberg, you remember he had that super extreme grip on his serve where, I mean, he was all the way through here when he lined up. So the thinking's right. I mean, like, there can be these minor adjustments, but yeah, what Scott's saying is pay attention to what your heel pad's doing, because most players that struggle with slice, that's the problem.
Christopher just commenting, he's absolutely right. Trigger finger helps place the heel pad on bevel 2. Trigger finger just means when you create some separation with that index finger, that's going to make that heel pad feel more natural. He's absolutely right.
I have been doing that on the kick serve, changing my grip a bit, and I noticed that helps too. But I guess the thing I still don't get is I understand chopping at different angles, but how can I do that with using the same service motion, I guess? So
think of it like a clock, okay? Don't think your wrist here, right? But if I just start off in this motion, right? I won't hit the TV, don't worry. But all I'm going to do is use my hips, right? And see, now I release here, right? So if I'm on a clock, if I'm dead ahead, my hips are forward, I'm releasing at 12, right?
So like, you're
and
more open with your hips and shoulders to make a slice serve go really far out wide left. See it?
Yeah, the hips, it's the combination of the hips. When you're starting, I know this seems like super rudimentary, but trust us on this. Just start the serve in this, called the tomahawk position, right? Just start in this manner, and then in time you'll get into where you're actually working through and getting out towards that more of that wrist snap, that continued or discontinued pronation. But we want in the beginning to get you to find that relationship between where the arm and the hips are aligning. But definitely don't ignore the hips. What I've got a really solid junior that's always had issues with slice, and I basically had him serve into the wall, right? Serve into the opposing wall, and then start finding the range, because that's what I was talking about with the exaggeration theory. Another good exercise is if you're working on, like, say, the deuce court, the out wide deuce court, stand at the service line, I love this drill. All right, stand here and try to hit your slice serve off the court, right? The ball should be going like over here, because that's kind of this optical illusion that really helps you start finding it. And then you can start working your way back, hit serves from here, hit serves from way out here, and then start moving in, right? And that's going to help you kind of get rid of the optical illusion of what your hand wants to do, and you'll start training yourself to get the racket to go where it needs to go.
Okay, thank you guys very much.
Yeah, man, of course. Get out there and try it. Let us know. Christopher, I just threw that link in there, and I was trying to say, here you go, my man. I somehow said, here you guy, my man. So there's the link for that serve challenge workbook. First day typing. All right, let's head over to social here. Plus, guys, any more questions before we field one of the 5,000 over here on social? Dan wants to know, how do you serve effectively with no strings on your racket, which is a fair question.
Should probably get that racket strong, huh? He only has like 20 of these things. You couldn't grab one with no strings, with actual strings in it.
They're all in my trunk. In hindsight, I probably should show up
because that's where rackets. You keep your rackets, everybody, in your car.
Yeesh. Shut up, Nate. All right. Let's see here. Toby says, I have a bad neck and it is very hard to look up, but I can still serve, but not that hard anymore. Any suggestions? Also looking through the top of your glasses. Not your glasses, talking about looking through the top of your glasses serving. I'm going to let you feel that one because it sounds really hard.
So we ran into this with Keith.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Keith's an academy member. He came down.
He had like a herniated disc or something.
Yeah, he had a really nice 4-5 player, big serve, and he had kind of the same thing. It's limiting. We worked through what we were just talking about with the rear pelvic tilt. Like, even though you can't move your neck, can you move your back and your hip rotation? Can you get into this? Right. So like, I get this. Like, if you're taking your neck all the way back, that's going to be a nightmare. But try playing through the lower back and really working through the arms and getting into that hip, that hip position. That's going to help you get a little bit more shoulder over shoulder, kind of that cartwheel effect. But outside of that,
it's tough. You need it up there.
It is
because the biggest thing. Look at like Nick Kyrgios' serve, for example. This comes to mind because of the live training we just did. He's already way up there. When that neck drops, that arm and shoulder drops. Yeah. So you kind of lose most of the magic if you can't get up there. And I think maybe just knowing that that's the case and doing the best to keep your arm and shoulder up, even though maybe you're looking up more with your eyes instead of your neck, is sort of the best you're going to be able to sneak away with there, unfortunately. But
you know what else you could do, though? This just occurred to me. I had a really awful abdominal strain. And I was in a tournament.
Did you pick up an Oreo too fast?
So that looked at, bro. It's getting huge, right? But I was in a tournament and I had an abdominal strain. I was dying to play. I was in the semis. I was like, I can make this work with the serve, and I started side arming serves, and it was the nastiest slice, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't try this at home, but literally, like, taking the ball and working from here and just cutting the hell out of it. If you can't look up, maybe start playing with that a little bit. I was blown away with how effective it was. We won the semis and got blown out in the finals because they didn't have a problem. Yeah, they didn't have a problem with that. But you got to tinker with it a little bit.
All right, we'll field. Let's do one more here, and then we'll shut it down so our wives aren't furious with us. What about Alina L asks, and guys, I'm sorry. I know we're missing a lot of questions here on social. We just can't possibly get to all of you and finish before work starts tomorrow. So what about if the returner consistently lobs back over your partner's head? So we're talking about doubles here. You know what? I'm just going to switch court templates so that I've got 4 players. How do you like me now?
There you go. Look at you.
There we go. And that's not what this should look like, but this is what I have readily available. So this is my test template to see if I liked this or not. I downloaded it.
Dreams time.
All right, so you're serving out wide. Your opponent's lobbing the ball over your partner's head. So couple options here, right? One, your partner can list a little bit further back towards the service line. Now, a high-level player is going to immediately see that and start hitting your partner in the feet. If that does not happen, you're in a good position to just sort of stay here and play overheads. So maybe that solves the problem. More advanced level player, they are going to start taking advantage of this player. They're going to start ripping towards their feet if they see them off the net. So then what I would be looking for is communication, where you're going to look to come in and take that ball out of the air as your partner switches positions with you, creating a hover smother position. So now you're going to take that, depending on how fast you are, if you can get there and get set up and get underneath it. If you're really fast, maybe it's an overhead. More likely it's going to be a high sort of pop volley that you're going to hit from probably somewhere between, let's say, halfway between the service line and the baseline. But the goal would just be, instead of letting them start the point by putting you, that was foolish. They move all my toys, sorry. Instead of letting them start the point by putting you on defense, running, if you're a right-handed player, to your backhand, high backhand. This player's smart. They moved in. Your partner can't help you. You're on defense. I would much prefer to see you come in here, take it out of the air, trap them on the baseline, and flip the script. Anything you want to add to that?
Where serves are most likely getting lobbed are tee and body, right? I mean, most players, if they're playing the deuce court, this is a hard backhand to pull back cross court, so they block lob it, right? The one, going back to it again, right? Short slice lob. Where's your body pin? Can you throw that to me? Thanks, me. Right, I'd be aiming into this sector, because the more you're pulling this player up and into the court, the more difficult it is to lob. Doesn't need a lot of pace. Think of it just like a short chip, right? I mean, that would be my strategy outside of the serve as well. If I'm playing somebody that will not stop lobbing, stop hitting deep, right? Yeah. Hit short chips and go, we'll lob that, because they're really, really difficult. And then you bring them into the net, and it's even more difficult for them to be successful, because most players that love lobbing don't love volleying. Yeah. But that's where I would start aiming my serve there too.
Cool. We'll do one more, because I'm never going to ignore a plus member. So David says, can you talk about pronation on the slice serve? Some pros do it, some don't, and some do it sporadically. What should a rec player try to do, and what are the benefits and drawbacks of these different swing techniques? We covered this a little bit with the tomahawk motion. Do you want to, you or me?
Yeah, so what you see is pronation and continued pronation and discontinued pronation, right? Here are the two ideas. When you're learning pronation, never try to actively pronate, all right? Because when you do, what ends up happening is that you do this and you're hitting the ball, on the side, it's going all over the place. Focus on extension, right? Because I promise you this, if you get your arm fully extended, it's naturally going to go where it needs to go. So on the slicer, we know what we're really doing is hitting the ball like under 5 o'clock, and the ball's exiting at 3. All right, that's where we're hitting the ball. So as my racket works out towards that, yes, the racket is going to stay on this plane. I have a racket, I should use it.
Yes.
Right, I'll get low here. But as my racket works through that contact, this would be the face, right? Some players are going to naturally continue to work through and then go through pronation. I know that's really low, making sure I'm staying in frame here. But that's kind of a subconscious thing, meaning that they've made their contact and then the arm is continuing through to pronation. All right. So the other way, while we're talking about the discontinued pronation, is like that's where we're seeing some pros as they're working up to the serve and they're chopping. And this is where the hand is staying more this way. I'll get lower. Right. So I'm coming through and it's going more through here.
Want me to open your frame up a little bit, brother?
Right. I think I got it.
Okay.
I got small. All right. But if we see that difference, that's the key, right? I think it's easier to focus on not intentionally pronating on the slice serve. Do you pronate? Yes, to some degree. And yes, sometimes entirely. But as far as pronation affecting the serve, it's an afterthought. All right,
I've never brought it up as a coach unless someone specifically asked me about it for exactly the reasons you just said. So David, like for me, if I was coaching you, we would be talking a ton about chopping, and then I would just say chop and let go. And when you let go, you would naturally pronate, and I would never even address it. Like you would never even know unless you asked, hey, am I pronating? Is this something as a coach I would never even introduce into the learning arena unless you're so sophisticated that you're understanding the same question you're asking right now.
That's right. The big thing for us when we teach the slice serve is make sure you cup your hand at the end.
Yep.
Right? When you finish, right, and you come through, cup your hand. get it to come back through. I'll do it one more time in case y'all couldn't see. So as I'm coming through my serve, when I finish, right, I want to make sure that I cup my hands this way. And this is giving that nice half moon shape from the racket, that contact with the ball. All right. And then if you go into pronation or if it's discontinued, cool. Both are good. Right. But don't put the thought into pronation itself.
David, I'm going to ask you to unmute here and just dialogue with you a little bit. See if.
What's up?
What's up,
going
David?
on, man?
How sad if we didn't get to chat with David anyways. David's been loyal.
Ever since the serve challenge.
Yeah, man.
Ever since this, we tricked you to get into the player court community, and now you're a lifer, aren't you?
That's right. Get in while I'm young and learning, new in the process.
Well, and get in while we're small enough where we don't charge 10 times as much, because we're going to.
There you go.
I'm kidding. Talk
that
to
was
us.
a joke, everybody.
I mean, it's not a joke, but you're grandfathered in at whatever price you pay.
That's true.
Talk to us, David. Thoughts on the instruction there? We're basically saying yes, but don't think about it. Like chop, and then you will pronate naturally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think in terms of not thinking, like don't overthink it. I think is a good just get the arm out, and then it's just gonna have to rotate over like at some point. If it's really all the way extended, that's just what it's gonna have to do.
Either that or your hand is gonna break off.
Yeah.
Either that or your hand is gonna break clean off your arm. That's just science. It's gotta pronate at the end there.
Yeah, and the only time it doesn't is if there's something mechanically wrong, like if you're not getting your elbow high enough. So what I mean is, like, as I'm coming through the serve, my elbow is up. At this point, as I reach through extension, you can tell like my arm is already pronating. I know I'm not actively in the screen, but I'm already starting to pronate. Right. So I think that's the joint position you want to mess with. But you were saying, like, as far as how some servers on the ATP WTA don't pronate. And that's true. Some of them don't.
Yeah. And it's interesting just to see that, obviously you can have an effective slice serve with either technique. And so it's kind of curious about, maybe it's just more one of those classic, like, hey, just video yourself and figure out what you're doing and then figure out if you need to change something. But I know that's something that for me, I've had a pretty good slice serve, but I'm working on getting my ball toss higher to take advantage of being 6'5". So I was doing a lot of what you were talking about before, kind of coming around and just kind of getting the side of the ball where the ball really wasn't that much higher than my head to begin with. And so I got a lot of side spin on it that way, but you don't not necessarily getting the blend of spin plus the pace to go with it. And so I think that was, for me, trying to figure out, okay, well, do I need to alter anything more with the swing itself as opposed to just the path that I'm trying to put the racket on and making sure I get more,
David, in
more vertical with it.
In the serve challenge, remember the elbow the ball drill? Do that. Spend some time there. Everyone hates that because it's annoying and it's hard. Spend some time with it, right? Because that's the next natural progression. That's why immediately I was like, unless your elbow's not in the right position, right? Because they kind of go hand in hand. Once you learn this, see how the elbow naturally wants to stay low? The next progression is getting to where now you're getting this elbow up and then you're coming around. And that's where you're going to start finding the power with the spin. Right. But that's the position that we really want. You always want to think about like you're raising the pectoral. Pectoral's up, and then you're in this position here to where your elbow's going up. But yeah, that tossing the ball and just aiming the elbow off of it, spend a little bit of time there and then start working on the flip. The second part of that combination with that serve challenge, remember right after that, we were having you trap the ball on the fence. That's the next step, right? So it's like, okay, I get the elbow, and now with the starting an abbreviated position, when you toss the ball up the fence, let the racket flip and trap it. Right, that starts working on all the extension stuff, and we'll problem solve this.
So I've got two questions really quick, David. Then I'll chime back in with you. So Steve L says, "Who the hell is talking to you guys?" So if you're in our Play Your Court Plus community, you get a Zoom link, and there's actually folks here that we can see, and we can see them, and they get to unmute and chat with us. That's part of the Play Your Court Plus community. And Steve L also asks, what is this serve challenge? So we run a serve challenge once a quarter. We're actually running one a week from Monday. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not next week, but the following week. So I know a lot of you guys have gone through our add 15 miles per hour to your serve in 5 days challenge, but we will be running that again. What are the dates on that? Let me just pull my calendar up.
David, do you know what just happened there? That was called a shameless plug.
Well, he asked Steve. I'm just saying.
It was perfect timing.
Steve L's question.
Thank you, Steve.
I'm just saying. Steve wanted to know who we were talking to. I'm just answering. So yeah, that serve challenge that is free, by the way.
It is free.
It's totally free. It's from June 14th to the 18th. So keep an eye in your inbox for that. We'll be promoting the heck out of that thing. But David, talk to me. Are you feeling pretty good? Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I think so. I think the main thing is just kind of working through, that's the big thing for me, is trying to incorporate the legs more. Because that's something I struggle to do somewhat, just because I've got a meniscus tear in the left knee that I've had for a while. So I'm a big dude working on getting smaller.
Me too, David.
So,
I'm more bigger out than I am up, but being 6'3", it helps me hide all the burritos I had for lunch.
I was gonna say I've been big in both directions for a long time. I'm working on getting smaller, at least in the side to side version. So
good for you, man. Keep grinding, dude. It's tough. It is. I mean, I just turned 43, and I'm like, what happened to my metabolism? Right? It's just like, just got to keep plugging away, exercise and nutrition. That's it.
That's right.
There you go. Well, I'll keep practicing, and every once in a while, I'll uncork a real nasty can opener. So I'm looking forward to being able to
into
do
that serve
choice.
challenge again, man. Maybe you'll like the second round better than the first, and you've got free access to everything in there. We're cleaning things up even a little bit, so hopefully it'll be better than the last one. Even definitely, the technology will work better than the last one. I can promise you that.
I can't wait to see how you guys use the board with that one. That'll be great.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be way better. Yeah.
All right, David. Good talking to you, brother.
See you, buddy.
All right. See you.
All right, guys, that is it for us tonight. It is 9:15 where we live here in Virginia Beach. Thank you all for joining us. It's always a blast to jump on live and talk to all of you guys. I don't even have anything to sell you, so I don't even know what to say at this point. This is normally where I would plug something Play Your Court related, so I'll go ahead and figure something out.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. That's what we're gonna thank you for taking this time out of your busy life to drop in, hang out with us, ask us some questions, some hard questions, some easy questions,
easy questions,
all the above.
Hopefully go out there and serve +1. Remember, serve out wide. That's my foundational parting gift to you as a singles player. Serve that ball out wide a lot more often. Look for that open court space. We will see you guys next time. See you guys.
Later.